Well, things are just about ready for this last series of Group D. Just need Socke to ready up. Just need him to ready up. Think it's gonna happen quick, and it never happens. There we go. Newkirk Precinct is the first map. Snute has already taken down Socke 2-0. It is a rematch of the first series. Bly's already out of the group, 2-1 Snutes earlier on, and this will determine the final person out of the group and into group stage 2. In the bottom left is the red Zerg. He is Snute. In the bottom right is the teal Protoss. It is Socke. Oh boy. So after this, should be swapping off to Let's Rifkin solo cast the rest of the night. Group E and D, he knew the alphabet. Group E and F will definitely be playing out. So that's Neve, Namshar, Optimus, Lambo, Hammerrain, Mana, True, and DNS. I believe we... Actually, I don't remember what we're casting. Hold on. E. E. Okay, so we're gonna do the Neve, Namshar, Optimus, Lambo group. At least that's what's planned, but maybe things will change. Who knows? And then Wardy will probably cover the other ones along with the foreign language casters. But then beyond that is still up in the air. It's already been a almost 7-hour tournament. And they don't actually want to have the players sticking around until 2 in the morning. Their time. So they're gonna call it, I guess, eventually, whether they're gonna continue on with the last 2 groups. So groups H and G. Or let them play off stream at their own time. We'll see. Point is, after this, Rifkin's gonna come on a solo cast. There'll be a brief blip in the stream. Probe scouting for the 3rd base. Socke, I mean, he had, what, 2 macro games, was it? You know, I can't really remember the 2nd game, so I'm not even sure. But he had at least 1 really long macro game where he just got absolutely swamped by Snute, because Snute is kind of a macro beast. Snute can, of course, cheese every now and then, and he might want to throw it in if it was getting late and he just wanted to maybe control the game a little bit more, the pacing a little bit more, but he's usually more than happy in just defending and then attacking when he feels the time is right. Sometimes that lack of killer instinct does lose him games or give up positions he's had. It didn't last time these guys played. Thank you for the birthday well wishes. That was appreciated. Ooh, 3rd base, a little bit of a denial here. Snute's not going to go for this top one, but yeah, definitely going for this one. Speed on the way. Snute was starting things off with Ling speed and Banelings, and then adding on Hydralisk later. Socke going for the Twilight Council so far. I'll see what that adds up into. 2 Adepts, 1 Adept, and a Probe. Well, I thought 2 Adepts were going to try and shade out and do something, but instead they're just going to roll back. Run! Lings are already out, and they already have speed. Barely gets the save, but unfortunately, in an attempt to micro her back behind her buddy, loses the wall, so a couple Lings it in here, and that's enough to kill even maybe 2 or 3 probes. They're not really looking for it. They're most looking for scouting. They really want to see how that Twilight Council's for, and it is going to be seen researching, and that's got to be Resident Enclaves. 1 probe's going to go down here. 2... Nope, just kidding. Only 1. Well done by Socke not to let that tilt him. A Robo now on the way as well. Roachworn here for Snutes. Gets it pretty much for defensive purposes only, it seems. At least the last time they played, and then went right into the Hydro Stem once he realized it was safe. We'll see if this Robo is going to be a follow-up of a Dark Shrine 2, because we'd have seen that once or twice today. Or it is just going to be, you know, Warp Prism. That old chestnut. Oh, or... This feels like a mistake, but it might not be. So, this could have been a Dark Shrine, and this could have been for follow-up DT drops. But Templar Archives isn't the silliest thing I've ever seen, right? Like, this isn't totally out of the world, but it's definitely not what is usually seen beyond this build. I saw it once before with another, actually, I think it was an NA Pro. And while it was a cool idea, the macro and the micro weren't there, so I really wonder what it looks like in the hands of, I guess, a guy who's been pro for a long time. And he's been in and out, I guess, of, like, super pro or whatever you want to call it, but he's been pro for a very long time. Of course, Snute realized that the Depths would be attacking eventually, so he already has Roaches, but he also has a lot of Lings on the way, and he could try and counter and cancel Socke's third base. How the hell do you donate to Home Story Cup? I'm not sure what your troubles are with Streamlab. Usually it's pretty simple. But yeah, that's something else that's going on. I guess they haven't really been mentioning it. Maybe I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but they are still having that overall fundraising goal for Home Story Cup. I don't remember what number, but for it to happen. So you can go to their stream and check out how far they are and donate to them for that. But the Roaches did come over here. There's a lot of Lings that were made, like I said, and they are going to come over here and cancel the third base, and more importantly, probably just kill Socke straight up. His Depth's coming back, but they're not protected by anything. They're going to get surrounded. They're going to get killed. Snutes, I just went over how sometimes his lack of a killer instinct, his lack of just, you know, aggressive builds can sometimes be a very big detriment to him. And then he goes ahead and just, I mean, basically, like, it's hard to call him all-in, but he did skip a lot of things to do this, so. Dedicated attack. Attack of opportunity, whatever you want to call it. The Templar Archives, we'll never really get to see what it was meant to do, whether it was for really super quick Storm, charge with Archon, with Storm, that would be a doozy, or if it was a mistake and he's just making the most out of it. We'll never know. He had to defend on 2 bases, and while he does hold 2 bases, it's still not looking great. I guess well, I mean, he saw that there was a Robo, right? Yeah. So, he might have also seen the Warp Prism leave. Sees a lot of gateways being built, and I mean, there's 2 reactions, of course, to having your third base killed. It's either to play the super long game and try and get some seriously sick harassment done, get third base back up, Steven has eyes on that as well, or it's to all in off of it. Not much else. I guess Dark Shrine when behind is also another option, but got a lot of production. But he is gonna add on that third base still, try and play out that long game. Warp Prism was instantly denied, so it looks quite lame. And Snute now has 60 drones, 4 bases, upgrades on the way. Socke might have a lot of gateways, and he will have charge, but charge will make his adepts or his charge lots die faster. So I don't know. Two Archons going to the main base. Same effect as the fair DTs. Snute's gonna have none of that, apparently. You don't usually see 4 Spineclaws this early, but it will take care of it. He's got a huge army still ready to go out the front, so this really shouldn't be doing too much here. And it's actually gonna go forward, looking for the Zealots, looking for the Sentries. Doesn't find them. Spineclaws are taken care of. The attack came right before they were done. Pretty nicely timed by Socke, but his main force not able to do very much at all. Not that many force fields left over. And the barriers have all been popped on those Immortals, and this looks like it is going to be it. Socke might have a third base, but there's hardly any probes over there. All of his army dies. Barely saves the Warp Prism on the Ship Core. Hyde is around on the way, so that won't be happening ever again. Socke, I mean, if this wasn't the last series he's playing, although it is only the first game, maybe he's already tapped out. They're trying to hold on here. And there come the Banelings. Ooh, pow, pow, pachow. It's already a tough game. Ever since Socke, well, really, ever since he let those lings into his base, but ever since those adepts couldn't do anything to help his third base, it goes down once again. Socke not gonna tap out, just gonna warp in, prepare defenses on his two bases against Snute's 4. Snute though, once he gets Hydras, there won't be a Warpers on the micro with, there won't be a Mothership Core to save the day with Posted Overcharge for very long. And, oh, there's the lack. There's no Warpers. GG. As soon as that happened. Alright. So game number 1 goes to Snute. He's now 3-0 overall versus Socke. Everyone expected, I think, Snute to get out. And probably another scenario where you think he's going to get out first, but then he gets out second. Earlier today, Bjol faced off against Harsum and lost. So Bjol had to get in through the second place as well. It's Abyssal Reef in the top left. Up 1. It is the red Zerg, Snute. In the bottom right is the teal Protoss. He is Socke. I think most people expected Snute to win over Socke in both situations, but for some of the, I guess, older members of the crowd, maybe were coming back after a while. Socke used to be quite a formidable name, and while he's not like bad, you know, this time around, it's just that Snute is one of the top foreigners that we have, so Socke's always going to be in an uphill climb. As I said, like, I think the first time they played, I kind of went over the overview of what Socke was coming back to look like 6 months ago, probably more. And that he came back, and we were like, okay, this guy, I remember this guy, he was a really cool guy. I met him in Home Story Cup 2 years ago. And he used to be a very good Protoss player, you know, very deadly. And then he stopped playing for a while. And then he came back, and it was very clear that his micro and his macro was being, like, you know, worked on and still held up to that programmer status, but his decision-making was what killed him. He would make these awesome moves, he would barely hold on and defend, and then he would move out with a very odd number of units, and then he would die. And then he disappeared again for a while, so that's, like, you know, only coming back for basically anything Home Story Cup related, take related, I suppose. Like this, the Penthouse party. So, I mean, it's not quite the same thing. Like, really, I mean, he made, like, one big mistake in, like, 5 different games that was, like, he had a good position, he had a good lead, and then, oh, what happened? Now, I guess these games, the last one, he just didn't expect the counter all in. Third base taken too early. Not quite the same, like, overall, just, like, instant tap out, dramatic effect. I guess the very first game they played on Proxima, he had gotten to a good point because he had, like, 4 Colossus and a nice army, but Snute just, like, out-macroed him. But even still, that wasn't necessarily the same effect. I mean, like, really dramatic, just like, oh, Socke, you should not have made that. What made you ever choose that? No. That was 6 months ago. I think he knows how to play the matchup, and he knows the pace of the matchup, but it really is just being up against a Zerg player like Snute. Snute, I don't really have to go over, do I? Because I think most people know about him nowadays. Twilight Council once again on the way. We'll see if he ever really wanted to do something with the Templar Archives, because if he does it again, then it's obviously not a mistake, and I would really like to see what the future plan was of it. If it was for some sick charged out Archon Storm attack, and, you know, that little bit of a oomph added on with the Storm, or if maybe it was a mistake, because Dark Shrine is usually what follows up that Twilight Council. But last game was a Resident Enclaves push before anything was put down anyways, and this is just directly into the Dark Shrine, to the standard Dark Templar drop build that you would usually see in Everyday Ladder. Ling's looking for maybe even a very, very quick third base, but also maybe for, like, a probe that's been sneaking around or something like that. They're gonna find a wall instead, so not much they can do. They get a Bacon Hero for the bits once again. Use my bits to buy or kidnap a new cat. I adopt my cats, good sir. Yeah, I think we're gonna hold off on a new cat for a little while. I think the very first time I cast Socke, I did pronounce his name like Socke. But I very quickly learned that was... I mean, I'm not pronouncing it right either way, but Socke is a little bit closer to what it's supposed to be than Socke. Pretty sure, anyways. Gateways finishing up here. In fact, we have 4 gateways. This was, I think, like the very, very, very original version of the Dark Templar drop, so you could instantly warp in 4 DTs, but then people started, you know, only getting 3 gateways, and they only got 2 DTs, and then 2 more. Like, there's been a couple of different variations of this good overall macro build. And there's that 4th DT. Thank you to Morte de Angelis. Thanks for the great casting. Thank you. That's a pretty quick charge. And maybe a follow-up attack. This doesn't have to do a whole lot, but if it distracts, if it interrupts Snute's tempo, or it gets a nice couple of drone kills, either one, then a follow-up can sometimes be pretty deadly. Snute is known for over-droning at sometimes the worst of times. He is scouting for that 3rd base. Not just scouting, but also looking for a potential early cancel. If you get right on top of it as it starts, it's not healthy enough to take any damage. Queen does go down. Fancy Warp Prism Micro there. Keep the Archons alive, though. They're going to be an important aspect of the follow-up attack. And it is definitely going to be that. So 8 gateways total, 4 more on the way. Chard's going to be pairing up nicely. And as long as the Warp Prism's alive, then it should be a very smooth transition into the attack. And Snute, well, will Snute know about it? He still has an Overlord, seeing the 3rd base has yet to be taken. He just saw a probe go over there, though. Alright, he sees a pylon put down as well. Still would want to get eyes on the actual Nexus. But even the presence of a Nexus doesn't mean that they're not going to be very aggressive with their army. So more so, he'd want to see the army move out like he just did with the Ling. And I think that Overlord missed it. He is moving his army into position to save his 4th base from anything at all, though. So whether it's, you know, 8 gateways with charge already done, or just a simple poke and prod, he's at least got his units in the correct position. He stopped droning at 58, which is pretty decent counts. He doesn't have any Banelings, but he has Lings and Roaches. Maybe a couple of Ravagers would be in order as well. There are the Banelings. And there's not too many force fields, really. So those Archons gotta try and protect the charge lots while they can. Yeah. If Stu really wanted to, I suppose, if really wanted to play it safe, he could sacrifice the 3rd, but that's like not what's supposed to happen. He should be ready to defend against this, even if it's just barely. But oh, some pretty nice force field, and all of the Roaches just get demolished by the Archons and the Immortals. The Banelings still very slow. Lings still do not have +1, but he finds a weak point, goes in against the Sentries, but the Zealots were pulled back just in time. The Archons left a little bit alone, so they get surrounded. Picked up, however. Drones still not mining on that 3rd base, and did Snute not have enough units? Has he run out here? Did not have the right units. The Baneling finally collides into a couple of Zealots, but not enough of them. More Zealots, more DTs being warped in. And Socke might actually get a win here. It'll even up the game, the series, but it's better off than their first series. The Archon is basically dead. Banelings do come in and take care of most more of the charge lots. Socke has about 6 more in warp-ins, however. Micring to best of his abilities. I thought maybe Socke had it, but he's not warping in other Zealots. He's giving time for maybe to get more Banelings, to get more Roaches, maybe turn them into Ravagers. A single Zealot apparently has been just chowing down on the drones, so Snute already losing 12. He still has 4 bases in a macro hatchery, though. Like, if he could just hold, he would be able to recover. Just like 30 seconds of breathing time here. But his Banelings weren't immediately produced, so they're taking their time. Time Warp seems very odd. Like, it's a really cool idea if you're using something that doesn't have melee attacks, but since it's melee, it's like... Okay, bro. Well, it almost worked out. It almost did. It almost looked fancy. Banelings might get some pretty nice connections, not only on the Zealots, but even on the DTs. Does last minute turn him into an Archon, and Snute is barely holding on. He realized that DTs were in play. I guess he lost a few earlier to the drones, earlier to the DTs as well, so he morphs in an Overseer at the last second. But these Lings have had +1 for a little while now. Ravagers barely morphed in here. Only 2, but maybe that'll add up. Archon barely gets saved. Snute running out of minerals, running out of larvae every single time as well. It's awfully close. Socke gets the macro hatchery, but not the mining one, but Snute, just not enough army. Taps out. Socke, the Protoss, takes game number 2. What was the last map? Proxima. Alright, this is the map that's... I almost went like Snute, which is actually not incorrect. But anyways, Socke took it to the late game, took it to a macro game, even got into like an okay position in the macro game. I guess he was missing Storm. That was like a big thing. But he got overwhelmed, simply overwhelmed by Snute's macro. I'm wondering if he's thinking about how to make sure that doesn't happen again in the second series that they play today. If Snute goes down to Socke, that's that'd be a pretty big blow, to be honest. I know he didn't really appreciate his results at Austin, and Socke really isn't a. It's hard to find what he is because I think you have to ask him specifically, but somewhere between semi-pro and pro, I guess. It is game number 3. And in the top right, he brings it back. It is the Teal Protoss, Socke. Socke. In the bottom left is the Red Zerg. He is Liquid Snute. Surprising to simply see a point on the board, but good executed Protoss build is a good executed Protoss build. I mean, there's just, you know, there's not much to say. I don't know. Suit, I don't think, was in total preparation of that attack. He had an idea that attack was on the way, of course, as, you know, Protoss should try and utilize their, well, their space. Oh, hold on. There's gotta be a good word for this, but I can't think of it right now. Spatial? No, that's not quite it. The point is, they should be able to utilize their force fields to both threaten yet also defend their army, as well as their Warp Prism Micro to do so as well. Like, they usually are safe in at least trying to threaten the Zerg player. And Snute might have just been thinking, okay, he's only going to engage once, maybe twice, but then when he continued engaging, that's where Snute realized, like, oh shit, maybe I should have gotten, maybe I should have cut drones a little bit sooner, maybe I should have gotten more Ravagers than I did Banelings. The fact that the Warp Prism lived as long as it did can sometimes really be the difference maker. If you get the Warp Prism instantly, that cuts most Protoss all-in's power just like in half or something like extreme, right? And they gotta warp it all the way from back home. But he never even really touched it, and any attempt to micro it with the queens was just meant that he lost his queens. And there's some pretty damn good force fields too from Socke. Can't forget that. Twice he had some pretty good just cleaves across the middle of the army, got all the roaches, protected himself from the banelings, that type of stuff. So not sure he's gonna be able to get the same success twice. Usually when Snute realizes that he was a little bit too greedy or miscalled something, he's very quick to fix it in the next game. But there are multiple ways to catch Snute off guard. For now, it is just a normal macro build. It is Proxima. So, I mean, if Socke wants to play it to the macro game, he can. And there is that Stargate, so probably fast third following that up. Then you get a Mead Freak for the Twitch Prime sub. Socke. Osaka? Osaka and Masaka. I don't know, I'm getting so many different pronunciations for this. The thing is, it's just like learning any language, really. Like, maybe you can get it pretty damn close, but as often as I can tell Korean players that my name is Zombie Grub, I don't think they're ever going to truly be able to pronounce the Z. And I'm okay with that, which is why I don't really have any guilt with mispronouncing the names slightly. Obviously, if I'm calling Snute, like, Snap, Liquid Snap all the time, then that's a little bit different. But, I think it's okay. Thank you, Sizom, for the 3-month resub. Thank you, BaseTradeTV, for your passion for StarCraft 2. You're welcome. You're passionate too for resubbing. I got a couple of lings here. They're speedlings, looking for an opportunity to get into the main base and see what's happening, but they do scout the Oracle anyway. So spore crawlers are on the way. Queen's positioned in a perfect prime spot to take a couple shots at the Oracle. Rotterdam just subbed, looking for the tasty replays, I bet. We both share a birthday in May, so I subbed to him yesterday too. Zealot. That's like a Z. So like a Z in Zealot. Or would you say like an S in Zealot? Ah! Although it's really hard to differentiate Z and S sometimes. Okay, I'm going a little crazy here. Both Oracles come in here, but unfortunately one, I was going to say their tree path is over a finishing spore crawl. That got awfully close. This one also took a lot of pepper on it. Not too effective. 4 drone kills in total, but they live, and that's the important part. Stasis trap usage was pretty cool from Socke last time they played. Once, twice, I think maybe even 3 times. He did miss a couple of key revelations, though, and that's what really led to his untimely demise. Like that and just the superior macro, I think, of Snute. Not to say he's as bad, just that Snute's like, that's kind of his forte. But if you recall, or if you weren't around, reverse the map, but let's just use this as it is. He was trying to protect his 4th base, he had an army, he moved out in the middle of the map, and there was a huge concave of Hydras over here, and a huge, like, 30 Banelings over here, and it just collapsed in. If he had a revelation on the army morphing into Banelings, then he probably doesn't move out from his 3rd base and probably holds off on the 4th, but... Oh, I thought this might be a possibility, but I didn't really want to believe it. I didn't. This is one way to try and abuse Proxima Station. You see 1 Void Ray? That's not too suspicious. A lot of Protosses get 1 Void Ray to clean up Overlords. But you see 2, and then you're like, and then you see 3, and you're like, okay, I think I know where this is going, but only seeing 1. And Snute has not just had a problem sometimes with over-droning, but he's also sometimes had problems continuing to scout. Like, once upon a time, he would always get Overlord speed, and he would always be scouting. Always. In, like, both ZvP and ZvT. And he's really backed off from that since then, you know? He just figures, like, I scouted what I needed to scout, and then I'm good from then on. And sometimes it's totally correct, and then sometimes it ends up biting him in the butt. And, you know... Usually that comes with an all-in, sure, but sometimes, you know, the same effect happens with carriers. I guess if you define a cheese as something that, like, works, has a high chance of working if it's not scouted. Some people, I mean, there's a lot of definitions of cheese, but if that's your way of defining it, then sure, carriers can be cheesy. But, of course, very, very late game. So if you don't see this, and they get to, like, 6 carriers, and God forbid they get to Storm, too, like, you are in trouble as a Zerg player, even if you're one of the best Zerg players in the world, which Snute is. Revelation gets tagged on just the queens there. It's not too great. Nothing yet has revealed the Stargate play. You know, some of the things besides just seeing the Stargate can be seeing more than 1 Void Ray, as I talked about earlier. Seeing a lot of cannons at the front. That can be another way to get to mass air. Seeing units unusually cloaked as the mothership core is out. Like, any of those things, you get a glimpse of that, and you're pretty in the know. But he hasn't really seen anything. So while Snute is going for Ling Baneling Hydra, I don't think it's a consequence of like knowing what's happening. It's just that this is the plan he wanted to do before he even realized what Socke was going for. You can kind of tell that, of course, because there's no Overseer. So all the Mothership Nord needs to do is not die and then hover over the units. Thank you to Pifegerser. I like challenge. For the 6-month resub, and Puyobwalk for the 6-month resub. 6 and 6. Alright, so looks like Snute realized what was going on as soon as he saw the mothership and has reevaluated his position. Nope, just kidding. He is going to try and attack into this. His upgrades are finishing up, but he also has an infestation bit on the back. Socke is attempting to push out to at least start his 4th base up. You know, like, maybe he can't put it down right now, but this is the step before a 4th base, is putting the pylons down in the middle of your 3rd and 4th. And I don't think this is something that Snute can break anymore. Maybe had he attacked right then and there, but it's a time where you have to wait now, and that's usually not great. That's usually just the Zerg players. I think some Zerg players can't break the Protoss before like 10 minutes and this happens, and they actually just kind of give up mentally. Hopefully that's not the case with Snute. What's happening here? Infestor's on the way. Patching Glenn's on the way. Maybe even see a Neuroparasite, although I doubt we'll see something as cool as what sort of did earlier with Neuroparasiting all the High Templars. Or one High Templar and then feedbacking the rest. Like, that was pretty sick. You can sometimes get the Neuroparasite on the mothership, and that's sometimes useful. No cancel there. Maybe you have literally so many Infestors you just Neuroparasite all the carriers. That would be cool, too. And he is going for Neuroparasite and a lot of Infestors. But I feel more often they seem to just kind of flub. But two things really have to happen for the Infestors to not be very powerful. One, feedbacks. Two, detection. And those are both missing from Socke's army, and I really don't like that he's moving out. I am quite critical of this, but he does have a recall, so if things really went sour, he could just go back home. Fungal does work on interceptors, and that would have been a good fungal if it really mattered, I think. One carrier is depleted already, but... Okay, here's where the recall's gotta come in. The army is dead on the ground, so that's when the carriers cannot support themselves. Mothership did get kind of low. It was a little scary, but it's fine. That's what the recall was there for. I still don't know about attacking in like that, though, because while he does save the very, very, very expensive units, the carriers and the mothership, he still lost a lot of that ground army that wasn't too big and won't take too long to replace, but his minerals and gas that is taking up what could have been High Templars. Like, I feel very strongly about late-game Protoss when they have High Templars, basically. Otherwise... no High Templars, I think Zerg has a total chance of dominating. So that's the difference for me, and I'm questioning. I'm just okay, well, +2 arrow weapons at least for the carriers, and he does have Resident Glaives for the Adepts on the ground. I mean, Adepts still help out versus Lings and Hydras. Don't get me wrong, but Storm is just a little bit better. Plus, if Snute ever did transition into Corruptors, that's another thing that can help both situations. But this War Prism will scout that is an Ultralisk Cavern on the way, so maybe some more Immortals. I'll explain, I guess, what the Ultralisk Cavern is really for in a second. Adepts aren't doing too much, but they did move the entire army out of position. Socke being dangerously mobile with an air composition. This is really not the way you usually are going to see Protosses play with it, and I would say there's a reason most of the time. But he moves in, doesn't need to break down the rocks. I almost was like, why isn't he breaking down the rocks? Doesn't need to. And will get almost a freebie. If he recalls instantly, he can save this base, which he needs to do. There's barely any Sim City. Poor sentries. You never stood a chance. And the instant recall with the instant cloak on the Nexus does save it. A lot of Depths went down, only 6 drones were killed though, but the 4th base being killed, or the 5th, or whatever it is, like, man, that might have been worth it. But the Ultralisk, right. So, I mean, first of all, it's getting to that point in the late game where you just really gotta start throwing everything you ever can down in case you need it. So, Spire, Fungals, Neuroparasites, all the upgrades, you know, 3-3 on the way, Ultras Cavern, sure, why not. But the Ultras can have a better role than just dying to Immortals. There aren't any Immortals, they wouldn't do that anyways, but the ground army is a lot of times what really does, like, make it a complete meal here. Again, mostly thinking about the Storms. If the Ultras die, but they kill all of the Storms first, and then... oh, the High Templars first. And then you come in with Fungals and Abducts and Hydras and everything that would be stormed or feedbacked. If you hadn't taken those out, then the Ultras did a damn good job. But it's funny because it's like only just now we're getting High Templars. Void Rays might have been a better option to add in as the game continues on for a very long time. Really, the ultimate late game unit composition for Protoss is going to include Mothership, Carrier, Storm, Archon, and then even a couple of Void Rays. That'll melt the Ultras and any Corruptors that come out. And that is a flip ton of Infestors that I'm not sure Socke even sees. He hasn't thrown a Revelation down on the main army for some time. He does have 2 Observers. I'm not sure where they are. Apparently they are, in fact, with the army. I'm not going to try and find them. There's one. There's one. But that's still kind of in the air. I mean, it's like a little bit, you know, maybe in the back. Maybe the no parasites still go off. Cannon also provides detection. Storm has finished up. Air weapons level 3 also finishing up here. They are both maxed out. But usually this is the point in time where I'm just kind of looking at the Zerg player thinking like, okay, they got the economy. They got the bases. They have a maxed out army. But can they take a nice fight? And I would say that's done correctly. The Protosses can just say, no. No. No fight for you. And just take like a really, really good army trade. But we'll see. Additionally, as the game goes on, and Socke does even secure a 5th base, which is going to be difficult. Potentially. Harassment might start getting a little bit out of control. I mean, so far it's only been a couple of depths here and there. Is that really that scary, though? I don't think so. But, like, DTs later on might be really scary. Yeah, all the upgrades, talked about that earlier, just all the upgrades, all the structures possible for the Zerg player. They're the ones that are banking a lot, most of the time. Resources lost have been eerily similar. And income has... Yeah, it makes sense. It's mostly in favor of Snute, but a couple of dips here and there. These warp-ins just aren't really working out. These warp-ins are... Socke missing still maybe a couple of Void Rays, so he's getting that now, but also if it was like to really be the perfect that you could ever be, more cannons on the defensive would make it pretty difficult to beat. So he's putting them down now. Maybe some SimCity as well on these outlying bases, because now that the Lings are fully upgraded, like you really will need combination cannon units and SimCity to make sure they're not destroyed. Revelation is not on the army. Fungal is revealed, I suppose, that there are infestors. And oh, dear lordy! That is a big fungal. The High Templars are trying to get the feedbacks, but just can't reach them, so the storms go down. But all of the infestors are still alive and still in control of everything. Even get the mothership. And Socke, I mean, he's still in control of his own army. He still has a decent army supply, but he lost all of his ground units. Barely survives with little carries he can get away here. But 2 more should die as the Neuroparasite runs out, and that's where the supply just plummeted 30 or 40. That was not the ideal setup. I mean, it also is the case in most StarCraft 2 matchups, not all of them. The aggressor might always, be a little bit on the pain side here, I guess. So Socke moved to take an engagement, but was met by Snute, and if he had been waiting patiently for Snute to come to him, maybe it could have been differently, ended differently, because it looks like it's going to end in Snute's favor. Snute made us all worry a little bit, but no, it is a 2-1. And that's that. Socke put up a hell of a good fight, though, especially for a guy that we just do not know a lot about most of the time. He is ultimately taken out. That's it for Group D. I do believe Group E and F have started or are starting. So that should be it for me. There's going to be a blip in the stream as I talk to Rifkin about swapping over who is streaming and who is casting. So thanks everyone for watching, guys. Follow my Twitter at CGGaming, on Twitch ZombieGrub, and YouTube ZombieGrub, and Patreon is ZombieGrub as well. It's been about 8 hours. Long cast, but it's been fun games. I'll see you all tomorrow. I am really losing control of my words. For the next stage of TaKeTV's Penthouse Party 2. Bye. But it's a break, but maybe it'll leave sooner or later, whatever. Bye.